everyone. Today I'm going to be rebuilding this 6-prong mounting using these reference images and also these specs. And when I was trying to build this, I ran into some limitations with the head builder, so I wanted to create like a custom head using parametric tools so that it would be easy to adjust. There's just always adjustments that are inevitable, so I like to always create things that can be edited and adjusted easily. So I'm going to just try to I'm going to try and build this just using parametric tools. So let's just get started. Okay, so the first thing obviously is a ring rail, so I can see I need something just under a 6, so I'm going to use a ring rail. Oh. And let's see here. 6 is 16.5, let's say 5.75. Okay, so I'm just going to use something like a in between there, so I'm going to change this to millimeters and just enter this. I had no idea I could do this until recently. Okay, so there's just something slightly under 6, and we're just going to hope that's good. Okay, now for the stone, I need a 5.7 center round stone, so I'm going to use gem on ring rail. And I'm going to come over here to the list. Let's see if I can find a... Okay, there's no 5.7, but if I had to choose between these two, since I don't have the depth of the stone, I'm going to just choose the larger of the two, so so that I already have like a depth in place. And then I'm going to just edit just the diameter. I like to usually go with the bigger or the deeper stone. I don't ever want to make things that are too shallow. In this case, it doesn't really matter too much, but okay. So now the way that I'm going to approach this is to just create this one prong. And because I can use symmetry here, I'm going to use a polar array. You could easily apply this method to a different shape, like an oval or a marquee, but you would have to actually build one prong in like the southern position or the south on the compass point, and then just one more that you could mirror 4 ways. In this case, it's a round stone, and so that's easy for us. But you can do this with fancy shapes. It just maybe takes a few more steps. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to just be building this one prong, and I'm going to do that by making a sweep 2 using 2 rails, the kind of outside shape and the inside shape, and a profile placer. And I'm going to make the rails by using some blend curves from some gem guides. So I'm going to make 2 sets of gem guides. The first one here, I'm going to just change the orientation because I just need this one prong. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to bring these inside the girdle by 0.25, and I'm going to turn off the horizontal guides. I don't need those. I'm going to place this just at 0.1, just slightly above the girdle, and then I'm going to toggle this on, and I'm going to bring it down. Oh, you know what? I forgot to lift the stone up, so let me go back and do that. But I'm going to bring this down, I don't know, something like this. Looks fine. And before I move on, I'm going to just lift this up. I think it's probably maybe like 3.8. Seems okay. And now I'm just going to come in here and edit this and bring this down. Well, I think that's okay. and I'm going to rename it because I'm going to be making 2 sets of these. I just want to keep them straight, and I like renaming things because it makes it easier later. Okay, so I'll do that again. Same thing. I'm going to change the orientation. I'm going to bring these out though now, 0.75. I'm just sort of making this whole space here, or this measurement, about 1 millimeter total. And I'm going to turn these off, bring this up to match, and I'm going to toggle this on. And this one I'm just going to bring all the way down until it can't go any further. And I'm going to rename it outer. Okay. So now I'm going to use blend curve to make some straight lines on the inside and on the outside. But before I do that, I'm just going to offset this bottom gem guide. And that defaults to 1. And I like to do this because this is just an easier way to adjust where this curve is, which it'll make sense in 1 sec, but you can also move it along the y-axis, which I like. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to right click to accept that, and now I'll show you why that's necessary. So I'm going to use blend curves, and I'm going to first grab the top gem guide here and then the bottom one here. I'm going to flip both of these and then zero these out. And I'm going to call this inner because I'm also going to make 2 of these. And that's good. And I'm going to do that same thing. I'm just going to right click to run that again. I'm going to use this top, and then instead of the bottom gem guide, I'm going to be using the offset here. But I'll do the same thing, flip these and zero these out. This head has really straight sides, but something I like about this, creating the head this way, is that you could give the prongs more of like a bowl shape, which you sometimes see, or maybe like even like a tapered look. But I'm going to leave them at 0 for now. I'm going to just rename this outer, and I'm going to right click to accept that. And you can see here the gem guides are technically, they've been used in a dynamic command, so they look hidden, but obviously there's still a lot of them out here. So I'm just going to right click and hide them both again to get rid of the visual chaos. Okay, so now I have the basic curves here. I'm gonna put a profile placer to create my prong. So I'm going to come to Tools, Profile Placer. I'm going to choose my inner curve, and then I'm going to change this to like a squarish. I have just a custom thing here, which is just a rounded rectangular shape. I like it because it has nice straight sides. And I'm going to select this as my outside curve, and I'm going to make it 0.8. So let's just look from the right here. I'm going to bring this down just so it's about at the girdle, and then I'm going to rotate this. It needs to just be straight-ish. Does not need to be perfect by any stretch, but just something that looks-ish. I don't know. It's fine. Okay. And now I'm going to create the bottom profile. So I'm just going to slide along here, and I'm going to rotate this. And I want this, let's look from the right again. I want this also to be straightish, but it's clear that I'm going to need to elongate my curve here. So I'm going to just leave it the way it is. Actually, first I'm going to call it prong. And I'm going to right click, and now I'm going to move my offset. So I'm going to open this again. I'm going to maybe bring it down so it's nice and long. I'm going to cut this with my ring rail, so it really can be a million miles. It does not matter. And I'm just going to pull it in a bit. And it can come right across the center here, but I think this looks pretty good. So I'm going to right click to accept that. And now I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to just turn on activate auto sweep so we can kind of see what this is going to look like. So I'm going to keep rotating this until it's straightish. Oop. And maybe I need to lift this up just a little. Again, I can keep editing my offset, but that looks pretty good. Again, this doesn't need to be totally straight. You just are aiming for ish. Okay. And I'm going to create a shape to fill in the middle, so it does not need to come to the middle neatly either. Okay, but now I'm going to turn this off because I'm going to use a sweep to create that shape. And so I'm just going to right click to accept that. Okay, so now you have your structure for the prong, your curve structure. So I'm going to come up here to surface and choose dynamic sweep 2. I'm going to use this curve, or this rail and this rail, and then these two profiles. Let's turn this on. Okay, I'm going to turn mirror off. I don't need that. I'm going to make this 0. Don't need anything down here. What's kind of nice about this is that you can use these when you're ready to manufacture this, or you can leave them kind of low. I mean, it maybe doesn't look totally set like the way you'd want in a rendering, but I think it's pretty effective. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And I'm going to call this prong. And I'll right click. And now all I need to do is array this around the center stone. I'm going to create 6 prongs. So I'm going to use the dynamic polar array. It's up here. And I'm going to select this object, right click. I have to determine the axis, which is Z, and then the number, which is 6. And so there is that head, which, you know, again, you can, you probably don't want to bend the inner curve, but you can definitely play around with, you know, making this a different shape, or, you know, I don't know. But it's kind of, I like how flexible it is in that way. Okay, but I'm just going to leave it like that. And now I'm going to right click. Okay, so let's turn the stone off for a minute. So I need to create something that goes right in the center, kind of fills the gap. And I'm going to do that with a custom profile. I did this ahead of time just to save time, so I'm going to import it from my job bag here. Hold on a moment. Okay. I guess just the thing to note here, since I'm going to be importing this custom profile into the profile placer, I always like to know where the seam is, because where the seam is will affect the orientation on the ring rail. So I'm going to use the command curve seam, CRVSEAM. It's just a Rhino command. And then I'm going to choose my curve, and this is how I want it, because actually I want this to be the point where it meets the ring rail, and I want it to be perpendicular to the ring rail. You know, but you know, if you started and your seam was here, then this is the way it's going to orient to the ring rail, which may not be how you want it. So it's always worth, if you're going to use a custom profile, just checking that first. And then the other notable thing is that I know that this is 2x2. I don't know if you guys use box edit. I always have a tab here open. And it's great because you can just quickly see the dimensions of things, and you can also edit dimensions really easily. So I can tell this curve is 2x2, and this is important to me because I want, when I import it into the profile placer, I also want to snap it to the center so that it's more like the way a pipe, like a profile of a pipe, is oriented on the curve. So now I've said a lot of words. I'm going to just do the thing. I'm going to use profile placer. I'm going to select my ring rail, and let's just bring it down here so we can see. I'm going to use profile editor. This is the same as this here, same thing. And I'm going to left click on the profile, and I'm just going to hit delete, and then I'm going to come here to this button, add from Rhino. I'm going to grab my curve, I'm going to right click, and then I want to snap this. So I want this point here to be oriented right here. So I'm going to turn on grid snap, and I'm going to make sure 1 is the unit. I mean, any of these would be okay, but 1 for now is good. And I'm going to just snap it to the center. And then I'm going to accept that. You can save it here if you want to use this later. But so now I have this shape oriented the way I want. I'm going to just turn on wireframe, and I'm going to bring it around up here, holding shift to snap to the center. And then I want to do one more thing, which is just to rotate it so that it's this way. And it's oriented the right way. I wanted this flat side, these flat sides, to be oriented in the like east and west direction. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to just rename this hex and right click. And now I'm going to create an extrusion that just sort of fills in this space here. So I'm going to use this extrude curve and grab this curve, and I'm going to select both sides and cap, and then I just want this to be like above the place where the prongs come together, just above. And again, you can keep adjusting this, but this is probably good. So I'm going to right click to accept that, and let's just see what we have here. Okay, let's turn the stone on. Okay, so I like this. I like that it's creating a little flat place here, because when I create my shank, I want there to be a little flat place that I can use not only to cut the shank, but then like a easier place to solder the two together. If, you know, like this here is 2 different metals, so I'm going to cast it in 2 pieces. I don't like this though, so I'm just going to change the shape a little bit. So like I'm just going to squeeze it in so that it's just not sticking out. So like this. That looks pretty good. I like that. And I'm going to right click it. Okay, so now I'm going to make a Boolean from these 2 things. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to cut them with the ring rail, and I just like it to be one solid piece. So I'm going to use Boolean union. I'm going to select my hex shape, right click, and then my prongs. There we go. And now I have cut to ring rail in my quick commands. I don't know if you guys know, you can just like drag these into your quick commands. So these are things just I use a lot. I'm going to select the surface, and there we go. So now, you know, this looks pretty good, but it doesn't look quite as tapered as what I've got here, and that is easy to adjust. All you have to do is open your offset again, and then, you know, you can pull it down and or pull it in like this, and then you can just change the pitch of this to whatever you're going for. I know that sometimes these are peg heads, so you could potentially pull it really far in, but I'm going to stop here. I think that looks fine. Okay, so now I'm going to save this because actually as I was making this, I lost all my dynamic history and I had to start again, so I'm just not going to fall for that same dumb move. And I just recommend, I don't know, especially if you're creating something with a pretty dense dynamic menu over here or dynamic commands, it's always a good idea to just save intermittently, because you never know when things aren't going to work out. Okay, so now I'm going to create my outside ring rail. So I'm going to build the shank. I'm going to change the shape to this. And I may have to make some adjustments here. So just from the front, I'm going to try and get it to look more or less like the picture. Maybe looks pretty good. Okay, and I want to pull this whole thing up a bit. So I'm going to come to my gem on ring rail, and I'm going to move it up to like 4.2, 3, 4. That looks better. And then I'm going to also change my extrusion so it's just a bit taller. I want it to intersect with my outside ring rail. And that still looks good. So there we go. And now I'm going to create some profiles for my shank. I also made custom profiles. I almost always and exclusively make custom profiles for each thing I'm doing. I don't even bother to save them, but I make them all from, generally, I start with like a 12-point deformable circle. So I have an alias for that. It's just C, and I'll just show you what they look like. And then I basically just move the points around. And you know, both of these profiles originate from this shape, which means that they will sort of flow really predictably even when I'm transitioning from one shape to another. And I know that they have the seam is in the same place, so it really helps a lot just to prepare things ahead of time if you're going to be kind of using dynamic profiles. Okay, so I'm going to use my ring rail, and I'm going to just bring this down again so we can see it. And again, I'm just going to do that same thing where I delete this and then I grab this one, and I don't really need to orient it differently. I am going to just, determine my outside curve here. And then I'm going to make another profile. I'm just going to start here so that we can see it, but I'm going to get rid of this one that I made, and I'm going to grab this one instead. And I'm just going to now sweep this right up to the top. I'm going to put on activate auto sweep so we can see it. And I'm going to change this top profile to 3 and the bottom one to 2. Actually, I'm going to make this top one 3.2. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, again, you can always adjust this, but that looks pretty good. So now what I have to do is cut this shank so that it is in this shape. I need to make like a nice point that nestles in to the prongs. And there are many ways you can do this, but I'm just going to do like path of least resistance kind of way. I'm going to turn my sweep back on. So that's my initial prong. And maybe I'm just going to change this color so we can see the difference. And I'm going to turn this off for a moment. And actually, I'm going to put these profiles on light green and just hide them. Okay, so now I'm going to use MSR objects, and I'm going to select this prong. And I'm basically going to just stretch this and change its shape and then array it so that I can use it to cut the shank in exactly the same orientation as the prongs. So I'm not going to change its orientation this way along the X or its width, but I am going to change its thickness like this. And I'm going to change its position, and I'm going to change its height like this. Maybe bring this down. Okay, something like this. That looks good for now. So I'm just going to right click to accept that, and then I'm going to come over here and use polar array. I'm going to select this, and same thing, change the axis and the number. So now I have them oriented right, but as you can see, this doesn't come all the way like to the shank or through the shank. So I'm going to just right click to accept that, and then I'm going to open this up again, keep editing until it's kind of what I want it to look like. So I want this to cut the shank here, but I want to make sure it's also it's also you know intersecting all the way here. So you know what I'm going to do actually? I'm going to just grab this rotational or handle here, and I'm going to just spin it all the way around because I think this shape makes this a little more difficult. I'm going to bring it back in, and I'm going to stretch it way out. So I want these to cut all the way through, which I think is happening here. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to right click to accept this. And then I'm going to turn this extrusion back on because I also want to use the extrusion to cut this shank as well. Okay, so I know this is hard to see and kind of complicated and weird. Just bear with me for a moment. Actually, I'm going to turn this off so I can see that extrusion. And I'm going to do a Boolean difference. I'm going to choose a shank. And then I'm going to choose, I'm going to hold Control and Shift and choose this prong and this prong and this one and this one. And then also this extrusion here. And then I'm going to right click. And that did not work. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to just delete that. This is not necessarily uncommon, so let's just bring these back. And I'm going to bring my shank back. Show my extrusion. So maybe it's the way that these are interacting with each other. I think that's probably it. So let me just turn this back on. Instead of that slant, I'm just going to rotate them like this. See if that helps. Maybe that'll work. Okay, let's try again. Boolean difference. This and these. Okay. All right, wait. I'm going to just I'm going to escape out of this because I actually want to just select 4 of the prongs. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to select my shank, and then I'm going to hold Control and Shift and just select these pieces here. And this. Okay, that's what I want. That looks good. So I'm going to right click to accept that. And now I'm going to just call this shank and head. And then this one, oh yeah, this is the union. So I'll just rename this too so I know which one it is. Okay. So even though the polar array here, I'm going to just call this cutters, is grayed out, obviously these are still showing. So I'm going to hide this. And I want to get rid of these pieces as well. I can't just delete them because if I do, I will break dynamic history. So I'm just going to hold Control and Shift, or you can ungroup. And I'm just going to select these poly surfaces. It's a little annoying to do this because oftentimes it just grabs like one part of the surface. And then I'm going to type gv hide. So there we go. And I'm going to turn the head back on. And so now you have, whoa, you know, something pretty similar to what's in the picture. And then the final thing would be to put stones. But I will just say, if you need to make adjustments to this, let's just try doing it. It may be that, you know, changes that you make mean that you end up with, you know, maybe your shank disappears, or or something doesn't work quite right. And it's basically what then you need to do is just sort of go back and check, like sometimes you have to readjust where this cutter is, or where the offset is, and just if it suddenly seems like a Boolean isn't working, it's usually because some part of your dynamic situation needs to change back. So I think I can actually make this shank a little higher. Let's see, where's my outside ring rail? I kind of want it to, now that I've raised the stone up, and then I'm just going to change the shape, this height of this extrusion. Just want it to come right to the top there, and then maybe I'll change this again. So as you can see, it's really flexible, but just sometimes, you might find yourself like, oh, it stopped working. You can just go back and make sure you've adjusted all the different parts that come together to make it work. So now I'm just going to use gem on the list, and gem list on curve, sorry, is what I meant to say. Okay, and then I'm going to use my outside ring rail, and I like to just add the gems to begin with because I don't necessarily always know which direction they're going to get added. So I just like to add them and then edit them. So I'm going to use the list that I have here. So I need a 2, a 1.7, and 3 1.5s. And actually, after I did this, I did this job, and then we decided that the list should change to include 1.6 to make the channel a little smoother. So I'm actually going to just add one more. Okay, so now I'm going to change, I like to adjust these using the handles. It's just a lot easier. Okay, and then I'll change this to 1.7. And this to 1.6. Oop. And then I need to add just one more. Hey. Why is that not? Okay, let's just, we'll just do it this way. I need to add one more, and then I need to make these 1.5. Okay, and then I guess I'm going to be adjusting it from down here, which is not ideal, but whatever. I'm going to set these to table. I like to usually just put them right under. That looks fine. I'm going to create a cutter. I'm not going to pay super a lot of attention right now to this particular thing because it may not be perfect, but I'm just trying to make this go fast. So it looks like I have a flat cap, and that looks fine. I'm just going to bring this just slightly inside, and this too, just a little bit like this. I'm going to change the height and then move this up here. Alright, and now just gem cutters. Going to grab these all. And again, just make them a little bit smaller. Everyone has their own way of doing this, but I like to just give a stone setter a little something to trim away. Maybe it doesn't make a huge difference. Okay, now I'm going to just grab these. I'm going to just right click this and then control and click this one to deselect it. And then I'm also going to select these. Oops. And then I'm just going to use mirror to get them across. And let's turn this on. And now I'm just going to cut away. So I'm going to use a Boolean difference. I'm going to select my shank and then my orange stuff. So strange. Okay. Why did that happen? I'm sure there's a good reason. Okay, I'm going to sell gems. No, I'm going to sell block instances. So I'm going to select all the gems and then I put them back on blue because I am. And then let's see, sometimes when the channel cutter goes wrong or something like that happens, it's just like as simple as like a tiny adjustment somewhere. So let's just try that again. I'm going to do a Boolean difference, this and these and this and this. Okay, there we go. And that's pretty much it. So I guess, yeah, you can still, of course, like I said, make adjustments to this, or it's just very flexible even at this point. But what I like about it is just that you can kind of, you know, if you're going to manufacture these things separately, you have just this nice flat place where these two can be soldered together ultimately. So I like that a lot about doing it this way. They'd make a nice fit. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful and see you next time.